being able to just walk into spaces and have conversations and like speak on topics that I really didn't have much knowledge of before has been really incredible. And I didn't come in looking for it.
Welcome to another episode of the Intersection Podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. I'm your host, Analisa Wade. I'm a second-year full-time MBA student here at Scheller. I'm excited to bring you today's episode for Women's History Month. We have two lovely women here, Chasten McCrary and Brin McFall. Are you guys excited to be here today?
Yeah,
Yes?
super excited.
Thank you for coming on to the podcast. I'm so excited to celebrate Women's History Month with you both. Can you first both start with what brought you here to Scheller and maybe a little bit about your background? Start with you, Chasten.
Yeah, so my name is Chasten McCrary. I guess I'm a third-year Evening MBA student graduating in May. What brought me to tech, I always start with I am a Georgia Peach, so I'm from the greater Atlanta area. I've always known about Georgia Tech. Did my undergrad at Mississippi State University, majoring in marketing, and my background is in higher ed. So I did a lot of work in admissions at college universities and decided that at one point I would want to pivot into strategy and innovation. And so that kind of just led me looking in my backyard, finally becoming a jacket. My dad had begged all his kids to go to Georgia Tech, and happy to be able to kind of live out his dream. And that's really kind of what brought me here.
Wow. So did your dad go to tech as well? Or
No,
he's
really like a
wanted to
true Atlanta native. He grew up like playing basketball, like on the basketball courts here at Tech. But he went to Fort Valley State in, what is that, Perry, Georgia? Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay, Brin, what about you?
So, Brin McFall, I'm a first-year full-time MBA student here at Scheller. I'm actually a native New Yorker and moved to Atlanta about 3 years ago. My husband grew up in Marietta, and COVID just kind of landed us here somehow. And I think I always had the idea in my head after graduating from Colgate for undergrad that I'd go back to school at some point. I just didn't know when and for what. I was sort of in the startup world and decided I wanted to make a pivot into a strategy type role, potentially at a larger company. And so an MBA made a lot of sense. And Scheller was super interesting to me, I think in a large part because of the community that I so quickly saw here. And just kind of all the opportunity, like in my backyard since we had moved here. And so, here we are.
So random question. Do you like New York or Atlanta better, like Manhattan or New York?
Ooh, that's so tough.
I know.
I mean, I spent the first 25 years of my life in New York, so there will always be a love for it, I guess. But that said, I've definitely grown to love Atlanta, and I think more recently when I go back to Manhattan, I have a little bit of this feeling of, okay, I love visiting here now, but I'm also excited to get back to Atlanta at the end of that visit. So, I mean, I guess I've fallen for it.
Okay, so you love both. Okay, that's cool.
That's nice.
Let's talk about your first interactions here with Scheller. Like, can you recall some of like your first touch points on what it felt like? What was that?
I think my first touch point was actually with the Forte MBA launch program. So I did go through that route. And there was a Georgia Tech alum who spoke. I can't remember her name, but she now works for Disney. And what really inspired me about her journey that she actually started off as a teacher. I think she was teaching French. And so since I work in education, I thought it was really nice to see that, like, you don't have to necessarily have business experience to get into the program and be successful, and you can still make that pivot. And so through Forte, I just decided to keep going to different MBA events. I think I went to one at a VR bar with some students, and I was like, oh, they're pretty chill, So I just kept interacting, reaching out to the MBA office, and then eventually I do work at Georgia Tech. So once I got the role here, I decided, okay, I think this is the place where I want to be. I applied for the evening program, and I've been here ever since. So it was a really nice natural flow in terms of the interactions I had with Scheller.
Yeah, so you work here full time and you're in the evening.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
so you like live here.
I am here. No, yeah, I have class tonight, so yeah, I'm here.
And then, Chasten, you mentioned Forte MBA launch. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so with the Forte MBA launch program, it's kind of like a program to help women who are looking to pursue their MBA. And so when I did it, it was actually right before COVID hit, and they pair you with a mentor who's gone through the program, who's achieved their MBA at various schools, and they put you in like a little small cohort of different women who are also pursuing their MBA to kind of help motivate you with your application process, help you with your essays, give application waivers, and they eventually, I think there's like a large Forte conference where all the different MBA launchers and alumni come together to meet and network. So Forte has been a really cool part of my journey, and I've also been able to be a Forte ambassador in my time here at Scheller.
That's fascinating. Did you do the launch program too?
I found Scheller through Forte.
Wow.
It was the Forte, I think it's called the Forte Forum, but basically they held it. I had signed up for Forte's newsletters and things like that when I decided I wanted to pursue an MBA. And I saw that they were holding programming here on campus where a number of different schools were going to come onto campus, sort of give their presentation. And obviously Scheller was one of those. And just like listening to Rebecca and kind of learning more about everything this program has to offer, the smaller class size, kind of the STEM approach, but also the ability to come from any background and sort of still be a huge part of this community was really attractive to me and just sort of felt like a natural fit in a lot of ways. But yeah, Forte has been a phenomenal program. I went to the big conference they hold this summer in Chicago as well. There were a lot of incredible speakers, and I think just having access to that network of women in business has been really phenomenal.
And was that your first touch point too? I know that was Chasten's, but was that Forte Forum?
The Forte Forum, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's unique that both of you were exposed to Scheller through a woman-based program. I love that.
Yeah.
How's it been? Like the woman community here, like you started with Forte, now you're actually here. Is it what you thought it would be? Is it different? Let's start with you this time, Brin.
Cool. So I don't know that I had heavy expectations of what it would look like going in, but as I mentioned, like generally speaking, the community aspect of Scheller and sort of this feeling that the sharp elbow kind of dynamic that can exist, I think, in the world, but in MBA programs as well, maybe didn't exist as much here. And I've definitely found that through the network of women in my cohort and also the second years. I think there's like a really kind of lifting each other up and supportive community that I really appreciate. And just a lot of kind of powerhouse, super smart women with really great ideas, which is a lot of fun to be, a part of.
I definitely agree with that. Chasten, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely think like it's provided me what I've been looking for and also what I've experienced in the MBA launch program. I think the evening program is very special because we're all still working. And so it just kind of exposed me to a lot of women who are like doing it. Like some of them are married, some of them have kids, and they're also like still here pursuing their degree. So if anything, I feel like I've been more inspired by a lot of the women at Scheller. It's also been nice to create friendships because I don't know about y'all, but sometimes like it could be hard making friends as an adult. And so it's been nice to have those connections, do like sometimes some girls' nights, or even just being able to ask a classmate, like, how would you handle this situation that maybe I haven't experienced, and just get that corporate advice. So it's met my expectation, and it's also just kind of pushed me to kind of, go a little bit harder with the different goals that I have for myself.
Yeah. I can definitely agree to that too. Is just being inspired by not only just full-time students, but evening students as well. And just women from all walks of life. Like, I think it's interesting how we can come from teaching backgrounds or tech backgrounds or just all these different backgrounds and still kind of like be on the same level playing field here. I think that's really cool. And Chasten, you talked a little bit about how you've been inspired here, but what about like yourself? How have you grown? Like,
That's a great question.
You've been here, Brin, for a semester and a half?
Yes.
I'm already like over it, no, I'm kidding. But so you've been here a semester and a half. How have you grown in this small amount of time?
So something that I definitely wasn't necessarily looking for coming into the program, but I feel like I've definitely gained is confidence. And that is really hard to quantify, but I think so important. And I'd say, I don't know that the challenge is specific to women 100%, but in the business world, like you're often not the greatest like number at a table, right? And so I think that being able to just walk into spaces and have conversations and like speak on topics that I really didn't have much knowledge of before has been really incredible. And I didn't come in looking for it. And so that to me has been one of the most special kind of pieces of the program so far. And I hope I can keep working on it, but it's definitely come through challenges as well, which is sort of cool. And I like to think about, like some of the hardest things that I've done have actually spit me out the other side with a lot more of that confidence that I didn't have before.
Yeah, I love that. Like, was there a specific moment in time when you were like starting to notice that change, or like when did you start to feel like, oh wow, like I'm a little bit more confident these days? Like how was that transition?
I think it was just such significant sort of imposter syndrome coming into. I mean, I remember being at the Forte conference and orientation and putting on my suit and being like, what am I doing in a suit? Like, kind of feeling. And, like, am I as smart as everyone else? And can I, figure these different cases and problems out in our classes? Will I be able to do it? And then when you do it, it's like, ooh, I can do this. Yeah. Like, I can go network at an event I'm really uncomfortable at. And just kind of passing each of those milestones, it just builds on itself in like a really neat way.
I love that. That was really good.
I would steal your answer a little bit. I definitely think the confidence has grown and probably like just being more authentic to myself. I remember like my orientation, for one, I hate my headshot just because I feel like I was trying to be something that I thought I had to be when you take it at orientation. And then thinking about like who I am now, like I'm more authentic to myself and I'm more confident in how I present myself and how I talk, and just knowing like I don't have to be a different version of myself in order to get the same opportunities or have doors open for me. And I think that's grown through my time in Scheller. And having women who also appreciate you being your authentic self, and just classmates in general, I think that is inspiring me to grow more, and it's definitely helped my confidence. So like right now I have red hair. A lot of my classmates will know like my hair changes every month, and like sometimes, at least like as a Black woman, sometimes that can be kind of something that you're nervous about with changing your hair, a fur or whatever. But I've grown confident, and it's something that I think sometimes people recognize about me at Scheller, and that's important for me whenever I leave Scheller and go into whatever different roles and workspaces. It's just being my authentic self. So I can definitely say the Chasten from, when did I join? Fall 2022 would be like, oh, you're rocking a green blazer and red hair. Go ahead, girl.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. That doesn't happen overnight, something, that big. We're feeling like you can genuinely be authentic. When same as I asked Brent, like when did you really start to feel? Was it like you were testing the waters with different things? Because I can relate to that too. It's like I don't have to be what I think I should be. I can really just be Analisa. And for me, it was I had to do a little bit, do a little bit. And then I'm like, oh, I'm here. I'm here. Was it like that for you?
I think it was like that. Like do a little bit. And then I think so again, my background is admissions, and having worked before the role that I'm in now, I worked with Georgia Tech undergrad students in like a selection process. And the thing that we looked for was uniqueness. So then when I would be in the selection process looking at students, it kind of made me challenge my thoughts of like, well, why aren't you trying to be your unique self? And so I think doing it little bit by little bit helped. But then eventually I kind of was just like, I don't care. Either people are going to accept me for me or they're not. And I think at some point in your like MBA career and journey, like you start realizing that you don't want to be the same of everything else. You just kind of want to be true to yourself. So probably by like that second year, and then now that I'm a third year, I'm really like,
whatever.
This is what you get.
Yeah. No, I genuinely love that. Like, because how do you stand out if you're not being your authentic self?
Yeah.
I've noticed people who tend to not really have that transformation, they end up not being as happy, like throughout the program or like when they finish the program. So love that you have grown confidence, love that you're authentic. I'm here for all of that. Let's talk about your involvement. You mentioned you sprinkled like a couple of things in about like, I think you said something about bib or something like that, but like what leadership things are you doing? What leadership things do you plan to do? And how are you involved?
Yeah, so I guess the first one is Blacks in Business, BIB for short. So I'm the president of Blacks in Business. That's our one MBA club here at Scheller. We have full-time, evening, and executive students where we just focus on educating, uniting, and celebrating students who either support or identify within the African diaspora. That has been a big part of my journey here at Scheller. It's definitely, Scheller is a family, but BIB is also a safe place for students who are kind of looking to interact with others who have similar experiences. So that has been a great part of my journey. I was vice president last year and then became president this year. But then another role that I have that I really enjoy is I'm an MBA ambassador. And that's very important to me because I just like interacting with different students who are thinking about tech and kind of just motivating them either. If tech is the fit for you, cool. But if it's not, like find that fit and find the school that works for you. So I had a chat like yesterday with a student, and it's nice too to learn like what they're interested in. And then I try to like pass them off to students who I know could really help. I think like I sent you one before. So it's nice to kind of work in that admission side, given my background, and help tech find good fit in students, but also students like find the place that's for them.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm an ambassador too, and I think it's cool, especially when the people that you're helping actually come.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, hey.
Yeah. It's like, okay, wow. Like, how else can I help you? So, and given your background, I know that has to really be like rewarding, right? Like,
oh, yeah. Like, it kind of, because now I'm in strategy consulting, so I don't do admissions work anymore. But like when I'm asked to do webinars, it's kind of like putting on my old hat and being like, hey, y'all, welcome to. So it's cool. It's nice to touch on something that led me into the journey that I'm in now.
I work with the student programs office here on campus in a part-time job at a graduate research assistantship. So I've done that since I started at school. And then I'm a member of the Strategy and Innovation Club, Women in Business, and the Consulting Club. I recently founded the Scheller Parents Club with one of the other first years.
I love that. I saw
Miguel.
something about that come out too. So
Same.
more.
Yeah, so it's called the Beekeepers. I would say we're very much still kind of working on launch and ironing out some kinks. But the idea is just for it to be another community, to your point, within the Scheller network. I think having kids and doing an MBA is a whole different dynamic where you definitely have to pick and choose in another kind of way. And also social events might look a little bit different when you have a 1-year-old or a 6-year-old that you want to bring along on the weekends. So just trying to organize programming like that, but then also roundtables, panels, chats, where we can talk about things like work-life balance and childcare and just like different issues that come up as either a parent in an MBA program or a working parent in general. And I actually just got nominated to be the VP of Internal Affairs for the Consulting Club next year. So that will be exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So for you said the Beekeepers?
The Beekeepers.
Okay, so I don't have kids. I only have baby fever. But I want to know, will the club like allow people who don't have children to kind of like be in it? Maybe we can like learn from you all, like if that's something that'll be in our path.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really gotten there yet in terms of parameters right now. We'd love anyone who's interested in joining to join. And I think there's definitely an interesting component there. I know that becoming a parent and knowing at the same time I wanted to continue to pursue a career, there were all kinds of questions that came with that before my daughter even arrived. So I think that that's a really good point and could definitely be interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, work-life balance is a huge thing, like with kids, without kids, but definitely with kids. So, Brin, what does that look like for you? Like, you're in school, she's 1, you said?
She just turned 1, yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting for me because becoming an MBA student and becoming a parent happened so closely together. I think Harlow, my daughter, was just turned 6 months old when I started the program. So the two overlap a lot for me in terms of like I've learned to be a mom and learned kind of this way of life at the same time. But I would say sort of like anything else in life, I think it's a lot just about like managing priorities. And a line that I heard early on in the program as it related to just balancing the program was like, you need to think about what balls are made of glass and what balls are made of rubber, and like which ones can you drop. And so sometimes, you know, she'll have an 104-degree fever and I have an exam tomorrow, and I need to figure out which one needs to take priority and how I can work to balance that all. But at the end of the day, it all works out.
That sounds so easy. No, I'm kidding. That sounds, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, my hat goes off to you and anyone that's a parent, like, in this program. Before I pass it to you, Chasten, Brin, how have you felt, like, supported, like, through that?
Super supported, and I think that it's something that I'll be, like, forever grateful to this community for. We've spoken a little bit about it, but I think, you know, I'm able to learn from a lot of my peers. We are put in groups for our core kind of curriculum where I was able to sort of lean on people when I needed to. And then sometimes I have the time to kind of pick up slack or provide my experience to others. And so can do that as well. So I think it's been a really neat dynamic. And then I would say like the administration and the student programs office and kind of all the infrastructure at Scheller is so supportive and amazing as well, that I've always felt like I have someone to hold my hand if I need it, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was inspiring. Needed that today. Chasten, what about you? How have you managed work-life balance? Like, literally, because you're working.
Yeah.
And an ambassador and a president of BIB, like, and class. So, like, how are you doing on that?
I don't know. I feel like that's my answer I always give. I think the biggest thing I tell students like who are interested, and then even like classmates, it's just been like giving myself grace and recognizing like this is just a season. And similar to what you said, Brin, like you have to figure out what you're going to prioritize.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means like not necessarily having work-life balance, but just saying like this is the priority for now. So with work, I do think it's a good benefit that I work for tech. We have the TAP program here, and I think tech has a good community where they want to pour into their employees to go after other degrees if they're interested in. So that's been a benefit for me. But I think, too, is just like recognizing it's just a season. And that's kind of what I tell myself in those long nights where like you worked this morning and then you have class from 6:30 to 9:15. Like it's just a season. And then also recognizing your life might look a little different from your friends. And that's something that I had to like kind of accept. Like I won't be able to always go to this event, or maybe I won't be able to do that dinner, but there's a goal in mind that I have, and I'm just gonna kind of grind it out. So a little bit of work-life balance, but also just this is a priority for now. And then after May, I can kind of have my life back. And like, I have like hobbies that I'm ready to pick up after we graduate.
I was just saying earlier how I have been, not that I don't want to be here, I love being here, but once you get close to that like graduation mark, you just start imagining like, oh, I could do this. Yes,
I could do this.
You know, so literally it's like trying to think about that, but also like, okay, finish strong.
Yeah.
And like on that same like mindset, how do you give yourself grace? You both mentioned a little bit about like some things you have to prioritize. You might have to drop the ball on something or just not do it to the degree in which you would prefer to do it, like 110%. So when you're in those moments, how do you still make yourself feel good about that? Like, oh, I know I'm not doing the best here, but I have to push forward. How do you do that?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's probably the number one thing that I'm still working on and trying to grow in. Just finding that, like, acceptance, I guess. For now, for me, it's looked more like being okay with saying no and, like, understanding that it's okay that I'm not doing all the same things that the person next to me is doing because I'm doing different things. And that's been the easier thing for me to swallow than like, oh, I'm just not going to do this. Like, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a pass. But I also think just like acknowledging that that's okay, sort of in the way that you just said. And like, everything will be okay. It'll go on. Like, you don't always have to be, you can't do everything at 100%. And so, you know, next week I'll be 110% with my daughter, but this week I have 3 exams and like just kind of thinking about it that way. And knowing that, you know, everything can't be on all the time or you'll just burn out.
Yeah. Nope. I can relate to that.
Yeah. It makes me think about what we were talking about before we started, like how we talk to ourselves. Like we can be our worst critic. And so something that I do is I'm like, how would I motivate my best friend? Like if she was overwhelmed, like, and making sure am I telling those same things to myself? And if it is a thought that doesn't align with what I would tell my best friend or like my brother or whoever, like you need to switch what you're saying to yourself. So for example, my house is a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, my closet.
It's a mess.
Listen.
But I have a final.
You look great.
Yeah. It's like you said, like we have exams. So I have a final and I'm like, you know, that's okay. Nobody's seeing it. And right now it's a season of like, you have to do your work from 9 to 5 and then you have to study and then you have to do this final. And then on the other side, like, let's just clean the kitchen. Let's just start with something small. Like, don't look at the whole thing. So I really have been just focusing on when you like saying giving grace, like just be kind to yourself. Yeah. And then also recognize like one thing we say in the evening program is like we're all going through the same thing, just in different variations. And so when you stop comparing or thinking that somebody has this together, like we all have our stuff going on, and recognizing that there's no need to compare. It's just doing the best that you can. And then when you start the MBA program, like something's always going to be hard because it's new. Yeah. But like once it's not new anymore, it gets a little easier.
On a positive note, tell me your favorite thing about your Scheller experience so far, and how it relates to like just being a woman here in any way.
So I went on the international practicum last spring. I went to the Czech Republic, and hands down, that was my favorite experience at Tech and at Scheller. I think it's because in my MBA application, I actually wrote about, I hosted a foreign exchange student my senior year of high school, and like we're like sisters. She's from the Czech Republic. She was with me for a whole year. And when they sent out the locations for the international practicum, they said they're going to the Czech Republic. And it actually aligned with our 10-year high school reunion. Oh. And so I hate to say it, that was the main reason why I wanted to go. I was going to learn and do my work, but like it was nice to see a full circle moment that I talked about in my application that was really important to me in terms of learning about different cultures, also her being a woman and us having a strong relationship. It was nice to kind of go to Prague. I went early before my classmates to visit her, and then actually some of my classmates and I went out to dinner with her. Wow. And so I had hands down the best time on the Prague trip. There's like some competition of what group was the best, but like I think we had a really solid group who went to Prague.
That is fascinating. That is so cool. I love that.
Something that has been really neat to me is that the first semester is just such chaos, so much newness. You know, you do basically the whole core curriculum in one semester, so things are moving quickly. And, you know, as we were just saying, like not everyone knows everything and is good at everything. But we get put on core groups and teams to kind of complete a lot of our work. And also because it's such a small cohort, there's a lot of kind of ability to like learn from other people and collaborate. And what I thought was really neat about all of that is like the work products we came up with together as a group, coming from different professional backgrounds, some men, some women, different countries, literally, was so much better than the work I would have ever produced just standalone as an individual. And the placement in those core groups is pretty random.
Yeah.
Like the student programs offices, I mean, they're magicians or wizards or something, but we all just kind of click so well, are able to get to know each other as a cohort and like appreciate all those differences and also see just like the tremendous value in all of that. And that was a really, really cool experience. And I think just sort of one of the highlights for me of the first semester.
Yeah, I enjoyed my core group too. We're supposed to do like a core group reunion at some point, once we are all out of all the paperwork and midterms maybe. But this has been great. If you could just leave one sentence to give advice to women that are interested in coming to Scheller, one sentence, what would you say?
Do it scared.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Just, this is 2 words, but just be yourself.
That was great. You guys have good energy. I like this. Well, I hope you enjoyed coming on the Intersection podcast with me. This was a really great, authentic, confident conversation, and I had a great time with you both.
Yeah,
Thank you. It was awesome
having us.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Intersection podcast. I invite you to rate and subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Have a great day.